relationship crew. Jack, you want to do your job?
Hi, happy good people.
And thank you for joining us. Tonight's segment is going to be on the golden rule and how we should treat each other. As spiritual people, it's my belief, my opinion, that we should support each other. We should help each other. Um, we should treat each other kindly. There's enough for everybody. And, it's just if we're going to claim to be spiritual, I think we should try to behave that way. And that's just my personal feelings. So, with that, I'm going to open up the floor. Yeah, Jack, you have anything you want to add?
That's it. That's all you're going to say. And now you're going to open up the floor.
Yeah, Nels, you have something you'd like to say, Jack?
Not right at this moment. No.
Okay, so floor's open for everybody to comment. And we've got crickets.
All right. Show's over. See you next week.
And that's all, folks.
All righty then.
Let's go. I don't know. You know what? We're going to pick. How about Colleen?
Oh, goody. It's me. So there are times in this spiritual journey where we find ourselves not always treated the way we would treat others, right? And how do you handle that? Well, a lot of times you have to take the higher road, right? And just be graceful and not let people personal struggles affect you. I know that when you're talking about the golden rule, not everybody acts that way, and it can be very frustrating. And then you have to find a way to move beyond it, right? And so the biggest way that shows is in the ability for people to be kinder in the process. I can tell you that I don't do a lot of psychic fairs because I don't like the energy that goes into them. And Tammy and her daughter do one. And that's the only one I do because the energy around it is loving and supportive. I've had people sit down at my table and I'm not connecting with them. I walk them back up to the front and say, they really need to go with Ruth. And they look at the schedule and Ruth has an opening and they slide, and there's that camaraderie. We know who would work with people, or, if people say, oh, what do you do? What is not? And you have a bit of a banter. And I go, I'm not the medium you want to talk to. You want to go talk over here to Jack. Jack is really good. So go see Jack. And that happens all day long at Love, Light, Heart and Soul. It just organically happens, and we all love each other. That's not always the case in a lot of spiritual communities. Tammy, you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the things that my daughter and I hold dear is that we ask people to be very helpful to the people that are coming in, because they don't, for one, they're hesitant because they don't know what to expect. And they're at the door. I greet them at the door and ask them what they need and point them in the right direction. But all the people that are selling and all the people that are working and doing meetings and things know ahead of time that we don't like the cattiness. We want to do this for the public. And we need to do it with love and care. and be kind to the people and to them. And say if one person doesn't have the answer that this person's looking for, then that person is responsible for directing them somewhere where they can get the answers that they need. And it's not done, it's just done out of love. And I personally don't like psychic fairs because I find the people there to be catty and to be talking about people behind each other's backs. And not the kind of sphere that we need to have if we want to push spirituality, you know, and show what's possible. And people have the answers. And I can tell you, they come in apprehensive and they leave with big smiles on their faces. And it's because they have an experience like they don't have it most other places. And the way that we would do it. And Colleen has been with us, I think, all four. Well, this will be the fourth year when we get this off the ground, right?
Mhm.
You've been with us the other 3 years. And it works. So loving kindness and holding sacred space for people, I think, is some of the major things that we can do. There, everybody has problems going on in their life, and if they do share them with you, then shoot them up. You know, they don't even have to know about it. Just hold that sacred space for them. Do what you can.
Well, with your permission, I want to work one of those fairs one year. I'm going to come up.
Definitely.
And there's enough business for everybody. We
Exactly.
don't need to be covetous or compete with one another. I would have no problem at any time referring somebody to Tammy, to Colleen, to Stacy, or any medium that I know if I felt that would be a better fit. Um, it's going to keep everybody happier. And the mediums that I'm close with would do the same and have. And it's just in my mind the appropriate way to be. And when people do behave unkindly to me, I try to remember that something may be going on with them. They may be having a hard time. Um, and whatever it is, I also try to remember that I don't have all the information because it's easy for us to stand in judgment, but in reality, we may not have all the background information that if we had, we may say, "Oh, I get it. It's happened." At least that's happened for me many times. Once I got the background information, I was like, "Oh, I get it." So, for me, I'm really trying to work on not forming judgment and realizing I don't have all the information. And I'm also trying to remember that other people's opinions um, are just that, and they're none of my business. What they're thinking or what have you is none of my business. And else, of course, they bring it to my attention, then we can chat about whatever it is happily. Anyone else? Stacy, I think you should exit or enter stage left. Enter stage left, Stacy.
No, I'm just thinking a lot of it, like a lot of it's natural law. You're not going to attract everybody. You can't get everyone to like you. Otherwise, the universe would all be exactly the same and boring. So I think we have to sometimes not take things so personally, because normally when people are lashing out, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with something within them. And I don't know. I just kind of keep thinking about the law of vibration, the law of attraction, and I get, I think you see the cattiness, and I think sometimes you can be part of the cattiness, both partaking in it and or being the receiver or the giver, sometimes depending, I mean, we are human. I think I sat and someone talked, I think on Sunday at church, about judgment. I mean, we can say that we're non-judgmental, but we judge. I mean, it's just who we are. I mean, if it's honest, no matter how enlightened we are, there's some sort of notion of judgment. But I think that we're aware of it.
Exactly.
Kind of remind it to put ourselves in check. We try to live that golden rule. But even if they're kind of, you don't match them, so if they're catty and then you just start being catty back, you're matching their vibration or their frequency. So you're only going to attract more of that to your life in general. So if you can ignore them, right, or vibrate higher, like just kind of move your energy higher, closer to that vibration of love, and they'll just kind of naturally fall away. I mean, I think I look back at my short period of time of, teaching and being involved in spiritualism, and I've seen people come and go. They'll find church for a while and they'll love it and they'll need it because they're grieving. And grief never ever goes away. It just changes forms, right? It just kind of moves through like ocean waves. And when their storm kind of settles down, all of a sudden you stop seeing them. And then all of a sudden the waves start to come back, and it's a prime example of natural law. I mean, I'm getting kind of used to not going to church, just saying. So, we get into habits, all that kind of stuff. So I think that it's hard. The judgment part of spirituality is super hard because we're dealing with a deep-seated belief, knowing, faith, whatever you want to call it, of a concept of God and love. And each one of us are going to have a different meaning for that. And it's something that we can't say, well, the sky is blue and the world is round. And the majority of people are all going to agree, right? Like we're dealing with things that are unseen, unproven in a way. I mean, proven to us, don't get me wrong. But
I was going to say, go ahead, start that fire.
No, I mean, proven to us, it's our belief, but then people are going to rock your core, rock your feelings if they say, but I don't believe that. I think what you do is nonsense. I think
like you said, I think as far as judgments go, that when you are aware of them, then it's much easier, the more that you do it, to put yourself in check. Not that we aren't judgmental, but not to let that be how we lead into, feeling about something, that right away we catch it and move on.
Yeah, we're all going to have a judgmental thought. The thought's not the problem. The problem is when we hold on to the thought,
right,
and we exacerbate it. Just like when we meet, like Stacey was talking, when we meet with it's like throwing kindling on the fire. And another thing that I've witnessed, and I've even been the subject of it within the community, is rumors. And I love this quote I saw quite some time ago. We could change the wording a little bit, but we'll all understand what they're trying to say here. Rumors are carried by haters, spread by fools, and accepted by idiots. And if somebody hears something, instead of running with it and spreading it, I always say, ask the person, confront the situation and get it resolved one way or another, instead of just throwing kindling on the fire by telling it to this person and then that person tells it to three more. And, pretty soon, inaccurate information in most cases, because we've all played the telephone game, So inaccurate information tends to get spread. And again, let's
Well,
be loving and kind.
well, one of the things that spiritualism does is it encourages us to seek our own truth. So instead of you telling me Stacy is this way and I take it as gospel, I get to know Stacy and I go and I know her on my own level, not the way Randy said Stacy is, right?
And
And
Randy
that's
didn't
the
say
thing.
Stacy's anything.
I was using an
I
example
know.
that I knew I was safe to use.
I'm just teasing you.
But do you understand? You have to find those levels, and spiritualism doesn't say you have to be this. It says seek your own truth and be true to it.
Well, I think on
And
some
when
level
you are,
too, your own behavior speaks for itself a lot of times. So I think sometimes you just have to rely on your character and your integrity to carry through whatever else is going on, and not, because sometimes when you address that stuff, you're just throwing gasoline on the fire.
well,
Maybe,
and
maybe,
also,
maybe not, because some people, their perception of your behavior may not be exactly what your behavior is. And I'm not saying you're wrong, because,
Yeah.
there's no right or there's no wrong. But I think if we're all mature enough to ask the difficult questions, hey, I heard this, or you did this, could you explain that, why you did it, or what have you, then there's going to be less misunderstanding and less misinterpretation.
But I think we get too
I
attached to why people don't do what we think they should do. Instead,
I agree, but
you
if
know,
they
I think we get like, oh well, I wouldn't do that, so that's wrong. You know, and I think that causes a lot of problems when if you can just remove yourself from, well, they're not going to act the same way you do, and the way they act says a lot about their mindset and how they feel about things.
well, but again, if we communicate, we might, if we go that route, we might be removing ourselves from something prematurely, that if we would have asked the tough questions, we may have gained more understanding and realized that we don't need to remove ourselves. In my opinion, I try to ask the questions, because then I get the answers, and I'm formulating my thoughts, my opinions based on, the information gathered by dealing with it directly.
well, we also have a bit of ego involved in all of this, right? Because we're human and we have ego. And as mediums, we need that ego to keep us to a certain level. But we also have to keep that ego very much in check. And that's where the whole judgment thing and everything, when you start judging your other people, you've got to stop and really sit and think through, why are you judging this person? Or why are you feeling jealousy towards that person? And we forget that we don't all progress equally at the same rate. You may be going 100 miles an hour, I'm only going 10, and I want to go 100 miles an hour because I admire you, right? And I want to go better, but that's not the pace that I'm supposed to, so then I get frustrated. So you have to almost sit back and go, okay, I'm on my path, this is my path, and I need to stay the course, and everything I need will come to me when I need it, and not judge myself against how well Tammy's doing, or Lester, or Eve. I'm Colleen, and I got to compare myself to Colleen yesterday. Am I better than yesterday? Great. If not, what can I do to better myself? And that's when I start looking at other people that I have to say, oh, yeah, I need to put myself in check.
And when you were talking, something just popped in my brain, which is we can't compare ourselves to anyone else's progression or evolution because you know what? Each person is unique. So let's say, let's say you, Colleen, you may be more evolved in this particular chunk of spiritualism, where Tammy may be more evolved over here and someone else may be more evolved over here. There's a lot of different, when you say spiritualism, there's a lot that goes into that. You know what I'm saying? And everybody is different in their path. And, I think, and who am I, but, I think, um, if we try to be, like you said, better today than we were yesterday, and if we try to take the hard look at ourselves and try to be honest with where we need to improve, then, you know, we're going to keep growing. Like recently I realized that, I liked to worry about the people that I care about and, give them advice. And you know what? That's kind of interfering with their free will. And, it's kind of running interference on their spiritual progression. So I've had to take that hard look at myself and step back from that.
It's
You know,
funny you
we
say that
why?
because my daughter, if there's anything that kind of eats at my soul about what my daughter's doing or something like that, I've made it a rule as a mom that I'll just mention it once, my feelings, so she knows what my feelings are, right? But then after that, I never say anything about it again because, like you say, it kind of, interferes with their ability to have free will. And what necessarily I think about something isn't necessarily what she wants to do. So I have to be all right with that, you know. But I think that's a good thing to let people know what you think because you do care about them. But then after that, just to sit back and, watch what happens.
Yep. And I gotta let my sister do her thing. I gotta let Jack do her thing, and the other people I care about, I gotta let them all do their thing. Um, because that's their path, whatever it is. You know, I otherwise I'm not being spiritual. But the point of that was, if we take honest looks at ourselves, we give ourselves opportunity to keep growing spiritually and to keep accelerating and evolving. Anyone else? Jen, you have anything to add? Jen's like, oh, great. You put me on the spot.
Well, I was trying to unmute myself. I couldn't get the button to work. I think the golden rule is an interesting tenet of spiritualism because it's prevalent. It's one of those few things that is prevalent in almost every society and every religion that humans have ever had. There's been some sort of, the thought of treat people the way that you would like to be treated.
You know what's interesting about that? Let me interrupt you for 1 second.
Mhm.
Is when I think about the golden rule, so you may not want to be treated the way I want to be treated.
Well, that's said with the assumption
I
that
know.
you don't want people to be mean to you.
Right, right.
That's said with that assumption. But my point was, I think that it's interesting because it's a concept that can translate across societies or cultures or religions. It's ubiquitous within the human experience, and I don't know of too many things that fall under that you know definition.
You know what else? It's so common, people overlook it.
I agree. I agree. Um, and I was joking about that because that's just how my mind works. Oh, well, somebody may not want to be treated the way I want to be treated. But yes, it's about being good to each other. It's about being fair. It's about being honest with each other.
It's about
Um,
respect for your fellow
yes,
human beings.
and
Yeah.
decency,
Hmm.
and decency.
Yep.
And you know, some people aren't meant to, some people are what's that thing, that saying? Some people are here for a season. There's a saying.
Mhm.
I forget
Yeah.
what it is, but you know,
A season, a reason, or a lifetime.
yes, thank you. Thank you, Eve.
Mhm.
So that's what's so wonderful about this group. You can say something and somebody else has the answer. Um, and I look at it like the ones that are for a season or a reason are just there for my spiritual evolution. And the ones that are there for a lifetime are the ones that have the same values and the same ideas and principles. And, that's a wonderful thing. But still, the ones that are there for a season or a reason are just as valuable in my mind. Lester, what do you got?
Put me on the spot, didn't you?
I'm going to put everybody on the spot eventually, so they might as well just step up. Hey, batter, batter, batter.
Sometimes it's for me anyhow. I'm gonna use me. I'm slow to speak at times because you don't know what the next person is going through, and if you speak too fast, you might hurt that person without realizing. And that's where the judgment, because we're human, we make mistakes, and we have a judgment side. Why? I have no clue. So I'm slow to speak at times because I don't want to hurt the next person by me saying something the wrong manner. And if you don't speak it out the correct way, they're not going to grab a hold of it. So you got to sit back and observe what's going on. And when people can learn that, it might go a little bit better. And the spiritual walk will get better per se. You know, I do have a saying: kill the haters with kindness. Because we all got haters. We all have doubters. But if you kill it with kindness and show them the kind ways and the kind manners, then it's all going to fall into place.
I agree. And, you know, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with taking your time to speak as long as you do it. Take the time to think about it because if you don't take the time and you just react, well, yeah, that might not go well. Um, so I don't think that that's a bad thing, Lester. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Eve, what do you got? You knew I was going to ask you.
I knew you were gonna ask me as soon as you said you're gonna pick in everybody or whatever you said. Um
You know who's next, right?
no.
Don over here is next.
So I think as Jen said, religions and humanity and worldwide all have some kind of a rule, a golden rule, do unto others or what have you. And um, I don't know. I not too long ago, I put, on Facebook, they will have those name game things. And I put my name in there and it said something about Eve being a bad influence on others. And most of my friends made some kind of a comment to the extent of, no way would, Eve, lead somebody to be a bad influence. But, I'm sure I can get somebody in trouble if I go down, alternative paths. But, I don't know. I know for myself, I try to treat all with kindness, and I'm finding that the longer that I'm on this spiritual path, the more I find myself extending kindnesses to people that I wouldn't normally send kindnesses to. For instance, I find myself a lot when I'm walking my dog and I'm out there, around the city, around my neighborhood. I'll walk by somebody I wouldn't normally say hi to, and I'll say good morning. And I've been trying to make it a point to try to say hello to people that I wouldn't normally say hello to. And most of the time I'll get, good morning back or what have you. Um, so in overall, I know for myself where I used to be, like I could care less. Now I'm different where I care, like I don't want to hurt people. So I kind of like slow to speak. I won't say things. Um, I'll think things through before I open my mouth more often now than in the past. I would just act and then worry about the consequences and, whatever later. Um, yeah, I mean, overall, most people, I think, practice the golden rule. And I know there's individuals out there that don't have a clue and don't care and, will tromp all over and don't care. But for the most part, um, I think there's a country song that says most people are good. I mean, that's the way I feel. I feel overall, most people intend good. And I try to think that way about all, and I try to put out that. And the more I learn, also the what I put out is what I'm going to get back. So if I'm being ignorant and not saying hello to people and ignoring people and just acting like I'm better than, I'm gonna kind of get that kind of back from others. But if I'm being open and kind and, saying hello, and I'm finding myself saying I love you to people I wouldn't normally say I love you to, more often too. So I don't know. I think that's it.
And I agree. I think most people are good intentioned. And, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So we're flawed in that regard. And we're going to have what somebody may call a spiritual failure. And, I think when we have those, that we need to be kind to ourselves and forgiving of ourselves too, and use it as a learning experience. Um, because if we want to be forgiven for our shortcoming or our spiritual failure, what have you, then we need to be willing to forgive others too. At
I
least
know that
that's at least
I
that's
know,
what's written in my playbook.
right, I know that that's come up at some of my Course in Miracles groups where we've talked about forgiveness and stuff like that. And it's like the people that go through, say, a traumatic experience and, you know, experience someone in close to them being murdered or whatever, how do you forgive that person that did that deed to your loved one? But there are examples out there where people have forgiven, and you know, the what when that conversation has come up, the way I kind of look at it, like I try not to be a hater. You know, like I know there's people out there that are ill intended and they'll do bad things to people, but the way I look at it, it is part of their path. Like if I murdered somebody, I end up in jail. Maybe that's part of my awakening while I'm sitting in that jail cell. And then all of a sudden, my whole life changes and I get in touch with and find my creator, God, divinity, whatever. And my life changes from that act. I don't know. I kind of look at it like that way. Like that's part of their path. They, you know, like a drunk driver gets into a car accident, takes somebody's life, that's part of their path, part of their waking up um, process, I guess is the way I would put it. So I don't know. One of the things that I run into is all forgiveness is self forgiveness. Um, and when Colleen was talking, she was talking about the ego. What I learned in A Course in Miracles is the ego is a thought system. When we were the ego thinks that it killed God, and now the ego is experiencing guilt, shame, all that other stuff. So the key is the forgiveness of others and self, and get to a point where you start making decisions not based on ego, but on Holy Spirit, God, and loving things instead of fear, hate, and all that. That's all.
All right. Dawn, what you got, girl? Somebody just passed you the football.
Okay, somebody who has actually had this happen to me very recently. I'm just going to tell you what I've done personally. I have decided that those people were not going to live rent free in my head. I moved forward. I am becoming better as a spiritualist myself. And I've learned a lot of stuff in the way. I've actually wrote stuff about kindness. I wrote stuff about jealousy. I wrote stuff about the golden rule and a lot of other things. So I'm just going to simplified version of that is be kind, do good, and others will do likewise. Um, the golden rules points the way to harmony, peace, and happiness. Um, jealousy is just an emotion. Everybody has it, and just learning to accept it and then releasing it and become a better person, learning to deal with your jealousies. And kindness is love in action. And I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. We're running pretty close on time. Does anybody have anything they would like to add? Stacy, you want to get another word in? I think you do.
No, I have nothing. All I have to say is I think it's all about balance. That's really what it comes down to, is being able to be balanced. You know, you can't be a pushover. You know, you have to stand in your truth. And, you know, we have to give and we have to receive. We have to be kind. And, you know, we also have to be accepting. And accepting something just because we don't feel like it's right doesn't necessarily make it right. It just means that we accept it for what it is. And then you can either, you know, like Colleen said, change your frequency, match it, or rise above it, you know. And so I don't know, I'm going to stick to my natural laws and watch that, because when you watch the universe and all of its beautiful glory and all the fishes in the ocean and the animals in the sea, they all kind of live harmoniously together, and none of them are really bitching about the other school of fish. they're just kind of all doing their thing and naturally making, the universe go round. So I'm just going to swim with my little school of fish and, not necessarily have to worry about everybody else's school.
I think the mullet might be bitching about the snook eating them off the shore here.
I've also learned that people that are out there doing the negative things are the people that need the act of kindness given to them more because they don't understand or they've never had the, the act of kindness or love in their life. So sometimes those are the ones that you have to show more kindness to.
Yeah.
Okay, to add on to that, what she said and to what Eve said, me personally in my life, my mother-in-law was murdered by my uncle-in-law in a hunting accident. And before this all happened, he was not doing good in his life. Like he was on and off of drugs and everything. And since that happened, and he did weekends in jail for, I don't remember what his charge was, but nobody ever blamed him for it. But at the same time, like it gave him such a big eye opener that now he has a steady job. He's been in a relationship forever. He's about to get married, and that incident turned it around so he has a better life.
Nice.
So, just showing him the love and kindness of, we don't blame you for it. We still love you no matter what. It's not your fault. Turned him into a completely different man.
Sweet. I mean, it's not sweet in a way, but the transformation is sweet.
Mhm.
Jen, you got any final thought?
Just I am with Stacy on the natural law thing. I think it's all tied up into the law of vibration and the law of attraction. And the higher we raise our vibration, the more we attract people that are going to treat us appropriately, and attract the people that are going to be at that same vibration that we are. So a lot of it is just tied up in natural law, I think, and balance, as she said.
Sweet. Tammy, you got anything final to say?
You don't have to like everybody, but just be nice.
Amen to that, sister. Amen. So on that note, I think what we'll do is we'll have Jack do her job. Hey, Jack.
Good night, happy, good people.
Good night, everybody.